Okay, we are on page 34, and we are talking today about rational numbers. Rational numbers is let's see, if we're drawing a Venn diagram, integers, and this whole circle is rational numbers, then integers are all rational numbers, but not all rational numbers are integers. Remember that integers are whole numbers. So other things that can be rational numbers are decimals and fractions. And actually, a rational number has ratio in the name. I don't want to get you too far down the rabbit hole, but it is considered a rational number if you can get it by dividing two integers by each other. So like 1/3 is a rational number because this is an integer and this is an integer. And for example, like 0.385 is a rational number because I could get it by doing 385 divided by 1,000. This is an integer and this is an integer. So if you can get it by making a ratio, then it's a rational number. So the only things that aren't rational numbers are crazy things, which is how I think of it. Like if somebody is acting rational, they're acting sane, and these are like sane numbers. Irrational numbers are, you'll learn about them later, but you don't need to worry about them right now. So we're taking what we know about integers. Just like integers can be positive and negative, so can decimals and fractions. These can be positive and negative, and that's all part of being a rational number. So if we have a number line here, we'll put 0 in the center, and I wanted you to graph 1/2 -5.0 and 3.2. These are all rational numbers. You could graph all of these. So let's start with 1/2. If I say that this is 1/2 is halfway in between 0 and 1, right? This is not new information. Okay? -5.0 would be 5 spots to the left of 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, I'm going to run out of room. This is why we put arrows on the end. This would be -5.0, which is the same as -5. And then 3.2 would be a little bit over 3 holes. So 1, 2, here's 3 holes. If this is 4 holes, then 3.2 is probably somewhere in here. Okay, so in terms of ordering them from least to greatest, we're once again looking at least is the farthest to the left. So ordered from least to greatest would be -5, 1/2, 3.2. That seems very simple, and in some ways it is, because you're just taking what you already know from integers and you're applying it now into decimals. But ordering fractions can be hard enough without throwing in negatives. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say that I am doing, I'm going to graph people above and below sea level. So somebody's at an elevation of 0.1 kilometers, somebody's at an elevation of -0.6 kilometers, somebody else is 1/2 of a kilometer above sea level, somebody else is -5/8 kilometers of elevation. In graphing this, First thing is, there's a reason that we did chapter 5 first. And that reason is you know how to turn a fraction into a decimal. So you don't have to mess around with trying to compare what to what. So if I get my calculator out, remember I can turn 1/2 into a fraction or into a decimal by doing the top number divided by the bottom number. So I'm going to rewrite this as 0.5 kilometers. 5/8 is, I'm going to rewrite this as negative 0.625 kilometers. Okay, so now if I start with 0, and let's do the positive one. So the people who are above sea level are 1/10 of a kilometer above sea level and 5/10 of a kilometer above sea level. So this is 1 kilometer. We have somebody who's at 0.5, and we have somebody else who's at 0.1. 1, 2, 3, 4. This makes sense, right? Because 1/10 is less than 5/10. So 5/10 is further to the right. So of these two people, this one is higher above sea level, right? Then we get to the negatives. Oh man, freaking negatives. So if this down here is negative 1 kilometer, so 1 kilometer below sea level, let's start with, we can figure out where half would be, negative half. Now, in terms of negative, let's start with this one, negative 6/10. If I am counting from 0 to negative 1 and halfway down is negative half, this is going to be negative 1/10, negative 2/10, negative 3/10, negative 4/10. I don't have room to write them all, so I'm going to write every other. Negative 6/10, negative 7/10, negative 8/10, negative 9/10. So there's my negative 6/10, and then negative 1 whole negative kilometer below sea level. So negative 6/10 is right here. Okay, so we've got this guy right here. Right now, he's the lowest, or she's the lowest. And now what do we do with this guy? Negative 6 and 625 thousandths kilometers. So the question I have to ask myself is, here's 6/10, right? Does putting on this little bit make the person go deeper or make the person go higher than the person at 6/10? Keep in mind that another way to write 6/10 is as 600 thousandths. Yes, 600 thousandths kilometers compared to 625 thousandths kilometers. Whoops, and these are negative. This person is a little bit further down. They have moved 25 thousandths towards the 7. So if 0.6 is right here, then 0.625, I should have made this bigger, is like right here. Because it's about a quarter of the way to 7/10. So now when it comes time to rank order these, they're close, but one of them is the furthest below sea level. So negative 0.625, also known as negative 5/8 kilometers, is the lowest. Then negative 6/10, then 1/10 kilometer above sea level, and finally 5/10 kilometers above sea levels, which was originally written as 1/2. Unfortunately, there's not really a shortcut to thinking about this. You have to be making sense of the numbers and thinking about what are you moving toward, or what are you moving away from? So in another example, let's say I wanted you, we'll say this is 0. I want you to graph -1/2, -3/4, and -1 1/3. Okay, so first of all, they're all negative. There's nothing above 0. So this whole side, whoop, I don't need it. Now if I think about -1/2, well, if I say that this is, we'll put -1 right here. -1/2 is moving towards being -1.
All students being picked up by parents and all student athletes are now dismissed.
So it's not having a whole foot below ground. It's being a 1/2 foot below ground. -3/4 is moving even further towards -1. It's even deeper than -1/2, but it's still not as deep as -1. Now, -1 1/3 is a whole foot below ground plus another 1/3 of a foot deep. So it's moving even farther to the left. 1 second, Dad. My dad's here.